Hey students, so today I'm going to teach you guys how to make a food web. The thing you're going to do when you're going to make a food web, the first thing, research the ecosystem. You're going to figure out who are the producers, who eats the producers, who eats the things that eat the producers, and what decomposers are there. So the ecosystem I'm going to do is a forest ecosystem. So up here in Michigan we have temperate forests. So some producers would be like moss, ferns, grass, shrubs, trees, and those have things like leaves and flowers and seeds and bark and roots, all that sort of stuff. Anything that's plants that you would find in the forest. Things that eat the plants, okay, that would be like rodents and insects and small birds. Deer eat the plants, even bears eat plants like berries, that kind of thing. So who eats those guys? Well, nothing eats the bears really, but bears will eat rodents, and so will owls and other birds of prey. Same with small birds. Bears will sometimes eat deer, but not usually. Okay, and then the decomposers you usually see in a forest are like fungi, like you might see like a mushroom. You'll also see slime molds, which are a different type of organism. So I would say like slime molds, fungi are the decomposers. So I'm going to use those that I just talked about to make my food web. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom with the producers. And I like to add a sun to show that the producers get their energy from the sun. So I've got my producers listed. I wrote down the things that they make, and I included a little sun. Okay, for my next step, I'm going to start adding the herbivores and the omnivores, and I'll use arrows to show the energy flow. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier, but the herbivores that are in my system here, I've got things like insects eat mostly plants. Sometimes they'll eat other insects, but we don't have to show that on this one. We've got small birds. So they eat plants. They also eat insects. So I'm going to draw, you see how I'm doing this? It's showing the flow of energy. So the insects get their energy from the plants, and the small birds get their energy from the insects and the plants. The plants get their energy from the sun. Okay. So small birds and insects are eating the plants. Maybe we have some rodents too. So rodents include like mice, squirrels, chipmunks, that kind of thing. And rodents will eat a mixture of plants and insects. And then we have some deer. And deer are mostly just herbivores. They mostly just eat plants. Okay. I also mentioned bears. So bears are omnivores. Okay. So far we've got a couple, mostly herbivores and some omnivores. Bears are omnivores. They eat both plants and animals. So I'm just going up in my food web. Bears will eat deer sometimes. Usually though, they'll just stick to easier to catch prey like rodents, insects, birds. They'll eat plants like berries or roots. So bears will eat just about everything. And then another organism you're going to find in the forest that eats animals would be like an owl or like a bird of prey. So bird of prey. And birds of prey are just any birds that like hunt animals to get their food. So an example would be owls. Those are common in forests. Okay, and they are going to just eat animals for the most part. They're mostly going to eat rodents, and sometimes they'll eat small birds. Okay, so far I've got my producers at the bottom getting their energy from the sun. The things that eat the producers, right, I've got the energy going to them. And then as we go up, right, that energy can get passed on to the animals that eat other animals, okay? So we're still missing one thing here. We've got just about everything done. In fact, most people would call this a finished food web, but it's not good enough for me. Okay, what are we missing? Well, let's take a look at Step 4, add decomposers, okay? So decomposers are also an important part of this food web, all right? And I said in the forest, we're often going to find like mushrooms. Now there's things that we can't see too, like bacteria, okay? So, and decomposers will get their energy from everything that dies. So dead plants, dead animals. So I'm just gonna put decomposers over here. So decomposers, like fungi, so that's like mushrooms and mold, bacteria, and I'm just going to say etc. and others. Okay, so decomposers go here, and everything that dies sends energy to the decomposers. So I can just do a big thing like this. Okay? So now you can see in my food web, all right, I'm just showing where the food goes, where the energy goes. And so when I ask you to construct a food web, you might have to do a little bit of research or reading to figure out the relationships between the different animals and plants. But once you do, you should be able to do a food web just like this.